Martha McSally's joined us in studio. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing great. We're going to get to you in just a second.
Sorry, I was a little held up
No,
there.
it's quite all right. We are flexible on the Jon
You would have
Justice
missed
Show.
the streetcar ranting,
I know, and I was running late on that, so you actually helped me do what I said I was going to do. So.
Perfect.
All right, Martha McSally joins us next on the Jon Justice Show. It's 104.1 The Truth, Right Talk for Tucson. You can watch right now on the CW58 and cable channel 8. You're listening to 104.1 The Truth. And joining us in studio, Martha McSally this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, John. I'm doing great.
You got stuck in Tucson traffic?
I did.
How does that?
It's so much easier when you're in 3 dimensions. Let me just say that.
If only we had a modern streetcar that could have taken you from your home to the building. That would have been fantastic.
It took me 15 minutes to get out of my neighborhood.
Is just construction going on?
No,
school?
it's just school zones, morning traffic. It's stop signs, backing up. It's crazy stuff.
I know you can fly a jet. You can't fly a helicopter?
No, I haven't learned how to do that yet.
No. Would you ever want to learn how to do that?
Sure. Why not? I got my paragliding license a couple years ago. I mean, I could branch out.
Are there a lot of pilots that know how to do both, or do you usually just kind of
do one or the other?
It's
usually one or the other. Yeah.
Is it because of? Well, why is that?
Well, it's, specific. Well, from a military point of view, it's an investment in your training, and they're two very different skills. I mean, some of the basics, obviously, of just understanding aviation and understanding the airways and the weather and all that kind of stuff is, the same. But it's really two different ways of flying.
I had the opportunity to take the family out to Davis Monthan on Saturday. Captain Simmons let us come on for the Heritage Days.
Oh, cool.
So we got to go out on the out on the field there and see the planes that had come. I didn't realize that those and I suppose it makes sense. I just hadn't thought about it. But the planes, the older planes that come in, they're owned by private individuals who then fly with our guys.
Right.
Was pretty sweet though, because there is such a big difference in, like, going to the Pima Air and Space Museum and seeing all the planes and stuff there is awesome. But to know that these are actual working, planes and stuff, and the boys got to come up and got to get into an F4 Phantom, which was cool, and got to look inside some of our modern jets there. And just so much technology there in front. I don't know how you would keep track of all of it. So well,
and it's amazing when you've got the older.
Watch your elbow. You keep it in the mic over there. It's all right.
The older ones flying right with the more modern ones is pretty cool.
They were talking about how it's difficult. Because they got to really get it down to a slow level to fly with the older planes and all that. Do you go up often now? Do you fly much anymore? Do you for recreation or anything like that?
I got my paragliding license, but I haven't done that since I came back to run for Congress. But flying a mission, close air support.
Sure.
Saving American lives is just very different than going to fly in a Cessna. So it's not. I mean, certainly I wouldn't mind doing it, but it's just a very different
scenario.
Different experience. Yeah. So.
What have you been since we haven't had you on since the election?
I know.
So what have you been up to since then?
Okay. Well, first it took 11 days to call the election, if you remember.
That's right. I
actually went to freshman orientation and.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was actually quite a surreal experience because I went to bed election night. I had 1,300 votes. Every day after that, it broke in Barber's direction every single day. Statistically, if the votes just behaved the way they did early ballots and election day ballots, then I would have won. But every single day it broke in his direction. So I was at freshman orientation, and we realized towards the end of that week, that we weren't going to be able to pull it off. So conceded that next Saturday. Had a couple weeks of, straightening out and sort of closing down the office and, just things to try and kind of get everything back in order. Took a little break, went on a 26-day, 7,000-mile road trip across the country. Put the dog in the car, went to visit some friends, and ended up in New Hampshire, Maine, then came back around. And moved back into my home finally when I came back last year. Somebody was renting it out, so I feel like I've been living deployed to Tucson. So I'm finally settled back in, and I've signed on with the Speakers Bureau, and I'm starting to write a book actually. So, and I've been doing a lot of things within the community. I've been asked to speak at different things.
You want to talk about what the book's about yet, or do you want to wait?
No, I could talk a little bit about it. It's really, I've always wanted to write some things down just based on, it's not like a life and times of Martha McSally.
Right.
It's going to be more of, based on the experiences and the opportunities and the challenges that I've had, the nuggets of lessons learned for leadership or, wisdom that hopefully can inspire others. I mean, I love speaking, and I love trying to inspire, especially the younger generation and people to do something that, somebody says is impossible.
Sure.
Taking on, the establishment, doing the right thing, standing up for what's right. Don't take no for an answer. The lessons that I've learned and the experiences I've had. So, use the experiences as nuggets for credibility for then, just conveying those lessons and those nuggets of wisdom, hopefully.
Jumping around a bit, was it frustrating? Obviously, losing the election had to be frustrating. But do you have any regrets of going through all that in Washington, waiting for it to happen, or are you glad you kind of got that experience? And
no, I'm
how did
glad.
that affect you?
I mean, you needed to do it because they only do that once, and there's some really important information you need to get in order to set up and run your office. So the contested races, you just need to be there. It certainly was very powerful to be eating dinner in the Capitol, and the night that I started to feel like this thing isn't going to turn in our direction, we were literally in a reception in the Library of Congress, and we're in the Library of Congress, and then it was basically we were in the several different places where, I'm sitting there and I'm like looking at the Constitution.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Declaration of Independence, and I know, I don't think I'm coming back, after all we did. So it was powerful for me, but honestly, it was, I have no regrets. I am so proud of what we did in 147 days. And we almost pulled it off. It came down to rounding error, 0.84%, against all odds, a lot of things going against us.
Sure.
That most people thought that were insurmountable, and we came really, really close. So, seeing firsthand some of the dysfunctions that are going on there, solidified to me why I stood up to run, trying to be a part of the solution, to try and fix those things. But, I have no regrets.
I want to get into a little bit more about that. Plus, I have some recent news that I know that you've got some knowledge on that I want to talk about as well. If anybody has any questions, and again, really, I'll be honest, this was for my own edification. Yeah. It's been a while since you and I had hung out, not since the election, and I wanted to be able to sit down and talk with you. So it's self-serving on my end, but hopefully everybody else is getting something out of it as well. So if you have any questions for Martha McSally, give us a call. 751-1041 is the phone number. April Madison will join us in the studio with an extended look at your forecast, and we'll get back to more with Martha coming up on the Jon Justice Show. It's 1041 The Truth, Right Talk for Tucson. Martha McSally joins us in the studio. By the way, do I have you for a bit here since we've taken a lot of time? Okay, excellent. All right, let's go right to the phones first, though. I got some questions for you, but so do the listeners. Good morning, Jim. Welcome to 1041 The Truth. You're also on with Martha McSally.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good.
Thank you. Good morning, Mrs. McSally. How are you?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Good, thank you. I've got one question for you, and it's very important, and it means a lot. Are you going to run again?
That's the first time I've heard that question.
No, it's kidding. Not. That's a vicious lie.
I know.
Because I was going to ask you it coming up.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, I haven't made a decision yet, Jim, and I'll tell you, I'm very grateful for the enthusiastic support that I still have. A lot of people in the community are really encouraged me to run again. And so I haven't decided yes or no yet. I'm certainly open to it. For those who know me well, they know that I have a fire in my belly to make a difference now. And I really do, having lost my dad when I was 12, I really do look at it like, hey, this could be the last 2 years of my life. What am I going to do with it now in order to make a difference now? And so I'm trying to jump out and do that and continue to be able to make an impact, with my experience, my skills, and be open to serve in public office or in other capacities. Quite frankly, there's a lot of ways to make a difference. So I'm proud of what we did, and I'm open to running again. But a lot of factors, some in my control, some outside my control. And I'll let everybody know when I make my decision, but I appreciate all the support.
I can't help but wonder if anybody has ever said they were going to run for a seat prior to actually announcing they were going to run for a seat.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? No, it's obvious the answer people want to know, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day it goes, When I say I'm going to run, that's when people that are announced are going to run.
Well, and it's a very personal decision. You can get all sorts of advice.
Sure.
You wouldn't imagine the advice that I'm getting from so many different people. No. We definitely caught a lot of people's attention nationally because of what we did.
Yeah.
Being nearly the last man standing in a very difficult year.
Sure.
And but ultimately, it is a personal decision about where can I best be utilized. To make a difference. And I'll tell you, maybe we'll get into it. Washington, D.C. is quite dysfunctional right now. And, can I help change that, or would I be wasting my time there? If that, you know what I mean? I mean, there's considerations now for this season, that certainly are, important to take into account. But I appreciate all the support. I'll definitely let people know, and I'm for now wanting to make a difference in this season. I got to get back in the workforce as well. People have no sense of what it takes when you give up everything to run.
Oh, sure.
And so I'm looking forward to continuing to serve. So.
Let's talk to Ron. Welcome to 104.1 The Truth, Ron.
It's not Ron Barber, is it?
No, I don't think so. Is this Crispy Chicken?
Just kidding.
Don't think so.
Okay.
No white beard.
Welcome to the show, Ron. You're on with Martha McSally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things. Martha, how would Washington be different, just assuming for a second that you actually had won the election in November? How would things be different right now?
Oh, so I'm single-handedly would change Washington, D.C.
That's right. That's always the power that every person has, right? Because you can change everything all on your own.
No. I can only say what I would be doing is what I would be tirelessly working in order to solve the problems that we have in front of us, to actually do the right thing for the country and the community, and not for political posturing or for party gain. I mean, so I can only tell you what I would be doing.
Sure. Well, let me take his question. Let me go here. What has been your impression of what Ron Barber's done so far in his time in office? Have you gauged it at all? I mean, what are your thoughts? Pretty much what I think a lot of us expected, but I'm just curious to get your thoughts.
I mean, I haven't been studying his every move. I've certainly gotten a lot of feedback from some people in the community, with some frustrations, but I don't think I'll share them all on the air, but,
can if you want.
I think he's been fairly predictable from what we expected.
What are let's get into a little bit of the politics side of things. Since the election, there's been so much talk, true or not, about the state of the Republican Party and what needs to be done, and where do we go from here? What are your thoughts on where the party is at? Do you think it's as dysfunctional as everybody keeps saying that it is? Do you think a lot of that is media driven? I mean, where's your headland on that?
With my 205-day total experience as a candidate, I'm an expert now, right?
Right.
But,
exactly.
You definitely have a different, I think, a unique perspective as a candidate, I would say. I think we've got some serious challenges in our messaging. I think our message, our fundamental message of freedom, opportunity, America being the greatest nation on the earth, American exceptionalism, making sure that we are defending those freedoms, that we do have a strong defense, that people have opportunities, that the free market principles, limited government, those things are winning arguments, but we have been losing in the way we're communicating it. Some of that is, I think, media, but some of it we got to look in the mirror and say it's not working. When you're trying to communicate to the people as an accountant, it doesn't necessarily resonate with them.
Sure.
So you have to somehow have your message be more personal to them. This is why these principles are going to help you move up from where you are into the strong middle class. This is what's going to give your kids an opportunity, because if we allow the basic principles that we all believe in to actually flourish, then there will be opportunities for prosperity. We will be able to pay our debts because we'll have a greater growth in the economy, and make it more personal to those that are struggling right now. We come across very clinical and more like accountants, and that's not working. So I think some of that we do need to look ourselves in the mirror. I also think there's people say, well, the Republican Party's doing some soul searching. Well, I don't even know what exactly that means, because there's all these different entities in Washington, D.C. You got the RNC, very much focused on presidential, The NRCC focused on Congress. The NRSC focused on winning Senate races.
Right.
The RGA focused on winning governorships. They don't get together in some sort of tribal council that decides what our next. They have separate pots of money. They have separate ways of doing things and different leadership. And so they're all sort of moving out on their own battlegrounds right now. And then we have the state and local state structures, and then we have kind of the local activists. And just because something comes out of Washington, D.C. in the party structure doesn't mean that the LD chairman, the precinct committeeman, and those that are involved in the party are actually going to be in agreement with that. So, I mean, I do think we need to be thoughtful and strategic about how we better communicate our message so that it resonates with individuals. It's not worked.
Yeah, it's a cohesiveness problem, you know, and for whatever reason, the Democrats, and maybe we just don't see it because we're not in that world, but it seems like they don't have that issue. There's a lot less of eating their own that we see, and it's hard because when you've got a party that has so much passion and wants to see change, that means a lot of different things, and a lot of people have issues that are core to them. And I think people have a really, really hard time with if a certain candidate doesn't jive 100% with them or on their particular core issue. They have a hard time letting that go. And there's some good in that, but unfortunately, when we look at the cohesiveness of it, it makes it really, really difficult to win elections.
No, I agree. I mean, we need to be more strategic, I think, in that regard. I mean, if the candidate agrees 100% with you, then the candidate is you, first of all.
Right, yeah.
You know, and second of all, I mean, I went through this in the election. You had people who, and they not necessarily couldn't even name an issue. Martha's not conservative enough for me. Martha doesn't have whatever. And again, maybe I lined up with them 85%. But it certainly was better than the alternative, which is, Barbara, which was probably 20 to 30%. So at some point, we got to realize, like, hey, we got to be strategic in order to win elections. We may not have your perfect exact candidate that believes everything that you do down to the very last little thing, but don't just tee up somebody else to run against them so that we have an insurgency going on where we eat our young.
Right.
And then we're not strategic. Then we're weakened, and then we're not winning elections. And this is more kind of a national discussion. We need to be more strategic.
751-1041. Can you hang out for one more segment?
Sure.
Cool. More with Martha McSally coming up on the Jon Justice Show. Martha McSally joins us in studio. I'm going to try to squeak in these phone calls, but I wanted to ask you real quick. Sequester, cuts coming down. Military's been talked about a lot. What are your thoughts on that right now? And I'll just make it easy. What are your thoughts on the sequester, the potential cuts to military, what they can do, where they can't cut? What do you think is going to happen? And what do you think should happen?
Well, this is no way for us to be getting our debt under control. I mean, this is just dereliction of duty. That we bring our country to the brinksmanship and all the drama that they're trying to create with that, and then we're impacting our defense in a way that they're at the end of the whip. Those that are trying to make decisions for planning for future programs that are being potentially canceled, and those that are potentially being laid off in small defense contracting companies. This is just not the way for us to be gaining efficiencies and getting our debt under control. So it comes down to dereliction of duty in Washington, D.C., that they're in this situation. Knowing people that are still working in the military and the Defense Department, I'll tell you, there's a lot of politics that are involved here. The last job that I was in, I mean, they figured out how to squeeze down in order to make the budget cuts work, but they're still being directed to furlough their civilians once a week just because they're being directed to. So that makes it look to me like there's a lot of political maneuvering here to have the drama be increased. Oh, these civilians are being furloughed. So I think it's very unfortunate that we are potentially jerking around the security of our nation, those that are in uniform, those who are, by the way, also the future programs, research and development to make sure our nation is safe through this sort of buffoonery and bickering. We do need to gain efficiencies, and there's ways to get those in the Department of Defense, but not like this.
Let's talk to Bob. We're down to we got about 2 minutes, Bob, so I want to get through some phone calls. What's your question for Martha McSally?
I wanted to ask Martha if she thought maybe the election was rigged by the Democratic faction.
Was it stolen from us?
It always seems to be one of
Well, I'll tell you, when we realized that we went to bed election night 1,300 votes ahead, and we were told there was like 10,000 more votes to count in each county. We woke up the next morning and were told it was more like 90,000 votes in Pima. We descended upon all of the places with a army of lawyers and observers, and I'll tell you, we watched everything they did. So, and if anything was funny, it was before the ballots showed up. But I can tell you, those who were watching, there was some buffoonery and some laziness, but not all and out fraudulent activity when we were observing the counting.
Martha McSally, it was great having you back in studio. We'll get you back in again real soon, and we'll actually get to some news items of the day. But it was great to catch up, and I appreciate you taking time out.
Sure.
And we'll keep on top of what you got going on.
All right.
Like a lot of people are, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, even the trackers. I go speak at stuff, and I'm still being tracked. So.
Excellent. All right. For those watching on the CW58 and cable channel 8, come on over to 104.1 FM as the Jon Justice Show continues. It's 104.1 The Truth. Right talk for Tucson.